Yo, welcome to this video. I'm back from rather a long hiatus with one of my own games, and this game comes from the Tuggeranong Vikings Chess Club tournament, the Chess Club Championships tournament I should say, and this was played on the 6th of April 2015. My rating was 1595 at the time, and my opponent's rating was 1310. My opponent is Matthew Wicklander, and I have the black pieces, and here we go. Before we get into the game, I'd like to give a shout out to Jason Gillard. You are the man. I had a tournament with him the other week, and he talked me into making some more videos again. So here we go. E4, E5, and we get an Italian game. Bishop C5, Knight C3, the four knights. D3, D6, Bishop G5, H6, and my opponent Matthew played Bishop to H4, which is not really a great move. The main move is actually Bishop takes F6, Queen F6, Knight D5, and the point is, of course, White gains a tempo on the Black Queen and also attacks Knight C7 with a fork on King and Rook, so the Queen needs to go back to D8 and then pawn to C3. This move is played to keep any knights out of D4, because an idea for Black may have been to play Bishop G4 to pin the knight to this piece, but now with the move pawn to C3, this pin is not such a problem for White, as Black cannot play knight to D4 because of the pawn on C3. So that would have been the main line. This was not chosen by my opponent. Instead, he opted for Bishop H4, and now I played Bishop G4, and I believe this is one of the better ways to play this. This was recommended in an Italian game book. Who was it by? I can't remember, but it's a book that I've got. I can check my library. I'll just do that right now. Yep, the book is by Jan Pinsky, and it's on the Italian game and the Evans Gambit, and it's a really good book. It's kind of an old book, but it has some nice lines in it for White and Black, so I think you should take a look at that book if you haven't already. So the point of Bishop G4 is, of course, we pin the knight down to White's queen, and we want to play the move knight to D4. So White doesn't have that many options. My opponent played H3, and I captured it on F3. And he recaptured with the G pawn, which was a bit odd. And doesn't make that much sense, because it just weakens the king side. Of course, I was expecting Queen takes F3. And in this line, Black now plays Knight D4. Of course, we have the same idea, but now it's with reversed colors. Queen goes back to D1, that's the only move, and now C6. And as we can see, White cannot play knight to D5, which means that this pin on the knight on F6 is not really a problem. Black can even play G5 at some point, and this is not really that weakening. Black doesn't have to castle on the king side. He can move the queen and castle long if he wants, so this is perfectly viable for Black. But instead, my opponent played G takes F3, kind of a weird move. So, alright, I played knight to D4. This makes some sense. Now that the knight is not on F3, I can now move my knight into D4. Knight to D5. Not sure about this move, because I can rather comfortably break the pin with G5. This is not a problem. Bishop G3, and now knight takes D5. C3 was played. This, I think, is necessary. An alternative was Bishop takes D5, but after Queen F6, Yeah, white's got some problems on f3. Castles, c6, bishop b3, take on f3. This is just awful for white. So it's, yeah, pawn to c3 is probably necessary. Now I played knight to f4. Bishop takes f4, g takes, takes. And what we've got at the end of this is black's got a really nice pawn chain with this bishop outside of the pawn chain. This pawn is attacked, and yeah, I mean, white's just got these awful pawns, and it's, you know, where's white planning to put his king? This is a big issue. He can't really castle short because of the g file, and not really sure what white's playing here. So my opponent played queen b3. This is probably the best attempt. Right, it attacks f7 and attacks b7. I thought for quite some time here, and I found a move that I liked a lot. I played rook to h7. Okay, so the rook, of course, covers the f pawn, and my opponent played rook g1. Not the greatest move. He could have tried. The most testing move would have been queen takes b7. Rook b8. I saw this line in the game. Queen c6, check. King f8. And now with all this pressure on the b pawn, white pretty much has to play bishop b3 to not let the rook enter. And now this really nice move, rook g7. This pawn also hangs, and black has the idea. Rook g2 to attack, and white's in bad shape. Black also has the active rook, so black's looking really good. I mean, he has the king on f8, but at the moment it's not such a problem. So that was a more testing line for black. He tried rook g1. Of course, his idea is rook to g8 check, which wins my queen. And again, in this position, I calculated for some time, and I came up with a nice move, queen to h4. Obviously, my pieces are attacking on f2, and the important line to look at, which was not played, he castled long here, probably the right choice. Instead, rook g8 check looks tempting. King e7, rook takes a8, queen takes f2, king d1, and now the really nice move, rook to g7, and it's pretty much mate. The engine wants to play moves like rook to e8 check, so if these moves need to be played, then it's not good for white. White's being mated in this line. So this is why this was not played. Castles long was played instead. Should go back. Castles long was played for white, and black in turn castled long. Now the b pawn's protected. King b1. This was a bit of a lazy move. Yeah, better was bishop f7, just to get one of the pawns back. Queen f2, bishop h5, and the idea is to put the bishop on g5, where it's looking a lot nicer than where it ended up in the game. This would have been better for white. Instead, he played king b1, and there's really no reason to play this move. I mean, black's just attacking all these pawns, and king b1 doesn't really help white's cause. In the game I played queen takes h3, bishop takes f7, queen takes f3, so white's losing stuff, and it's not looking so good. Bishop d5 with an attack on b7, so I drop back to b6. Rook to d2, h5, time to run the h-pawn. a4, he wants to play a5, and of course that would be rather bad for me if I let him play that, so c6. Rook c1, and this is probably the losing move. Okay, white has a bad position here anyway, but rook c1, yeah, now he can't save it. I'll play just king to b8 to get my king out of this pin. And he played bishop c6, bc6, rook c6. This surprised me a lot because I'm just up a piece in this line. Of course, he should have tried a5. This is the move I was expecting. But then I was planning just rook b7, just getting in the line of the queen. Takes, rook takes, and yeah, black's just 2 pawns up in this line. Queen f7, I can come back to g4, and the a pawn is very dangerous. Yeah, it's not looking good for white. But that's what he should have tried. Instead, he played rook takes c6. I played rook b7, queen e6, queen g4. White doesn't want to trade queens. Queen f6. Rook b to d7. Probably not the best move, but I didn't have much time at this point, so I just wanted to make sure that nothing bad was going to happen to my king, so that's why I played this move. b4. And now I found rather a nice tactic here. It's not too difficult, but it's nice. Bishop takes f2. Right? So the point of this is you can't take. Check and you win the rook. So instead of that, he played king b2. So he intends to capture the bishop because now there is no way to fork the king and rook. And now I calculated to the end of the game. I played the move bishop to h4. Before I show the end of the game, the move he should have played was queen f5. Now, of course, this is not a move you want to play because you're simply a piece down, and to get the queens off the board is basically saying that you're happy to lose. I mean, I don't know. It's just not a move you would play, really. Bishop e1 is kind of nasty. This attack down to the b pawn, rook moves and just take it, and the engine's on -8, so not much to look at really. After bishop a4, he played the move that I was expecting, queen h6, bishop g5. The only place to go with the white queen is to g6, but now pawn to f3, attacks the rook, and when the rook moves, bishop g1 check. It's a check to the king, and I've opened up the attack on the white queen. And in this position, my opponent resigned. I hope you enjoyed that game. I will be trying to get some more games posted in the next week or two. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next game.